All right. So now Skip is back on. You've got like
Yeah.
a 12-week hiatus, I think, from getting to record podcasts. So many people
it's
wanted
kinda,
on our podcast recently.
I was really kind of missing it. I'm glad we got me back on the schedule,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like,
which is
well,
which is
also
very
you get
strange.
the extra hour in the morning, though.
Yes, and that has been appreciated. But I remember you kind of drugged me onto these in the early days, and so now it's become very much an acquired addiction,
Part of your
perhaps, or
routine.
something.
Creatures of habit. Yeah, so today the episode is Stop Finding Excuses. So we were actually talking on our stand-up this morning with Sebastian, and he's new to parenthood, and we're talking about how you send a kid out to mow the lawn. Come home, the lawn's not mowed. Mm-hmm. Why isn't the lawn mowed? Well, there was no gas in the tank. Well, or in my case, the battery wasn't charged.
Yeah.
Okay, did you just use the spare battery? Oh.
Yeah.
Some people, and if you're a manager or an owner out there who's had to deal with teams, some people just give up at the first hurdle. Right. Or they're looking for an excuse not to do the job. Like, there's some people who give up really easy, but then there's that person who looks for an excuse not to take action. Mm-hmm. They look for a way to not do the thing that is good for them. Oh, I'll start the diet tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
I really want to eat this pie today. Yeah. I'll take care of my budget tomorrow. I will, I'll pay for that later. I'll put it on the credit card. Any excuse they have not to get something done is what they will choose. But then there's another kind of person who fights that urge to be lazy and starts to think, how can I get this done? Okay, how do I get around this? I really want to mow the lawn. Maybe I just go over to the neighbors and borrow his lawnmower today.
Right.
Or maybe go rent one. Or, maybe I, cut it with scissors.
Yeah, whatever it takes. I'm going to get something done. Well, and I think there's another one in here too, and maybe I'm just gravitating to this one because it tends to be me sometimes. It's the analysis paralysis sort of syndrome, and you want to do these things, but you're trying to make the right decision, right? And so
perfection is the enemy.
Yes, and so I have learned over many years that sometimes you just need to get going. You do need to gather some information, but you guys give me a hard time about my skipisms, but I think they really do help keep me on track sometimes. My one that's come up pretty often here over the last several months with all the things I've had going on is we'll be looking at something, figuring out what we're going to do, realizing that there is no perfect solution. But once you get a little bit of information together, you've got an idea. The one that I've been rolling with here of late is, all right, there's nothing left to do but the doing.
Yep.
And you just start. It may be imperfect. You may not have all the answers, but there's usually a spot, and it's typically earlier than what you might expect, for me at least, that it's just time to get rolling. We need to do stuff.
Yep.
There's no more analyzing, testing, evaluating, whatever. Let's just start rolling with something, because anything we get done right now is more than what we were not going to do. So sometimes there's just nothing left to do but the doing.
Yeah, sometimes, you sit there and like, okay, well, I didn't get it done because. I didn't do this because. Like, just get it done. It doesn't have to be perfect, but get it done. And so, people are like, I'd really like to use a project management software, but I'm just too busy.
Yeah.
I want you to listen to yourself just for a second. Not using Microsoft Project or Trello or even our software. You're too busy to get organized. Think about that. Like the thing that's going to save you time and get your company to the next level, you're too busy to do it.
Yeah.
And so at some point you gotta just do it. Even if it's not perfect, you just need to do it. I was just talking to an MSP this morning, and it's like, they're like, well, we won't wait to implement for till next year after all these things are done. And I'm like, well, it only takes about an hour left to do what we were going to do. And it'll generate like X dollars of revenue for you.
Yeah.
We've already established this. But they found the first excuse. Like, oh,
Yeah.
this could only, I'm not going to pick up my shirt off the floor because I'm going to do my laundry later anyways.
Right.
It costs you nothing to pick that shirt up off the floor and put it in the hamper, child. It did not. You actually had to walk around it. It costs you more effort to walk around this thing. And so sometimes I see people not implementing, like, even I know I'm being like picky on our software, but anything, implementing a new process. Let's say you need to do VCIO work. All you need is a pencil and a piece of paper, and then actually talk to your customer. Go in and have a conversation with them, especially right now during budgeting season, so that you can increase revenue for the next year. But if you wait to start having those conversations, it's going to be another year before you really get the value out of it.
Yeah.
And so why not start now and get value today, knowing that it does not take you any effort at all, just very little. Pick up the phone, have a conversation with your client. That's it.
That's it.
Well, I'm going to wait until I get my new PSA. Why?
Yeah.
Why wait 6 months to pick up the phone and talk to your client? Well, I'm going to wait until we have a contract renewal. Why?
Yeah.
Again, why? Like, you're finding excuses not to do business with your clients because it requires effort. So
Well,
we call
I
these
think
in the programming world no-ops. Are you familiar with no-ops, Skip?
no ops. No, I'm coming up to speed. I feel like on a lot of programming stuff here of late, but that one's still not in my repertoire.
For our nerdier people out there, if any of you know what a no-op is, I would love for you to comment on like our YouTube or our Facebook. I want to know, am I just getting old? So if you study assembly, programming language, you do something like a mathematical operation like divide. So that takes so many cycles of your processor to do a divide. I don't even remember how it is. Like, let's say it takes 3 to 4 cycles for it to get this divide done. Well, in the meantime, there's other parts of your processor that are doing nothing. And so you can insert something like an addition in over here because it's really quick. So while it's going, an addition takes 1 step. So while it's on step 2 over here, this option is open. So you put your addition in there. So now you're doing 2 things at once.
Okay.
It's really efficient. So in assembly, that's why you can be so efficient, because you actually can operate you're operating at the processor level of efficiency. Today, we've got so much horsepower, it's really kind of a lost art. But the idea of analysis of efficiency is the same. If it's going to take you a year to implement your PSA, there's going to be a lot of waiting and dead time in there while you're implementing new process. Are there things you can slip into those dead times? Like no operations. Nothing is going on in our company right now. So the second week of February, we need to implement a better process for touching base with clients. No. It'll take us, we know it'll only take about 6 hours to do this thing. Let's do it the second week of February while we're waiting for the migration of data. So another no-op is like you're installing the kids these days don't get it, Skip.
Yeah.
When you're installing Windows 2003 or Windows 2000 server, you had a solid 30 minutes just to do nothing. You sat there and
nobody
watched
knows
the blue
what blue
line.
barring is anymore. They're just like that. That's an old thing.
Yeah, blue bars, like watching blue lines. I've spent a lot of my career doing it. So what do you do while you're doing? Well, you get your cables ready. You can study for your MCSE. You can do a bunch of things, or you can just stare at the screen. Now, back then, we didn't have smartphones to play things on. If you were really tech savvy, you had Bubble Breaker on a Trio to burn time. So during this time, you're doing nothing. So why not be productive? So you clean the server room, just go around and I'm moving cables, tying them up, I'm dusting corners, I'm doing the little things that need to be done around the server room, and I'm filling those no-ops.
Yeah. Well,
so in your business, you have these as well. You just got to look for them.
And that's where you got to be careful with those, I think. So, like the PSA, everybody well, not everybody, but there seems to be a lot of people moving PSAs here related. We've talked to more people that are migrating from one platform to another than I've ever
The great
encountered.
migration.
Yeah, that's it, the great migration. And they're anticipating just a brave new world, right? When they get over there, and yes, you're planning that out, and there's going to be efficiencies and such, but you're sometimes over stating what's going to happen there. We'll be able to do this once we migrate to, the new platform, or
I'll do
when
that
we
when.
migrate to the new platform. And that's always the biggest one for absolutely everybody that I've talked to that's in this, big migration right now. Every one of them is taking longer than what they anticipated. And so we all know this, right? It's just kind of a pretty default option that, there's a good chance this project is going to run longer than we thought. And you keep trying to be efficient. You're trying to intelligently make some plans here that, this is going to be good timing. We're going to have some downtime. Then we can implement this new thing. Part of that is true. And there's going to be an element that you need to keep in mind. But at the same time, you still need to be taking steps forward. You need to find at least some small things to do so that when that future time actually does come, you're more productive, because you just keep putting things out. When this happens, then I'll do something else. Well, that's the old tomorrow deal. I'll do it tomorrow, right? Well, tomorrow never comes, and it slows organizations down drastically because they're always waiting on something else to happen.
Yeah.
And you just got to start
waiting
doing
on perfection.
That very much. I think that we want things to work right. We want things to work efficiently, but sometimes we just got to acknowledge that having it work or having it done is better than the ideal state that we can envision.
I was talking to some fellow business owners just recently, and they reminded me of a phrase like, it's better to own 1% of Apple than all of nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And so when you're running your business, you're afraid to give up authority. You're afraid to share. You're afraid to move forward because you want everything to be 100% perfect. You want to maintain 100% ownership. You want to be that, I think they call them unicorns. You get to $1 billion with no outside investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're a unicorn because they're mythical, people.
That's right. That's right.
Are you shooting for that lottery, or are you shooting for what can be done today? What's the pragmatic steps forward? How do I get there? Versus I need it to be perfect, or I'm waiting for the right time and opportunity. The excuses are everywhere. Excuses are easy to find. If I didn't want to do this podcast today, I could have been like, well, I want to make sure Riverside's 100% set up correctly. Skip and I need to do some test runs. We need to get some test videos out there. No. You know what we did? We turned it on, and Skip joined, fiddled with his microphone for a while. We both got frustrated because evidently Riverside is compressing his audio somehow. So I apologize if he's quieter for everybody.
Yeah.
But guess what? We're moving forward.
That's right.
Riverside allows us to do a whole bunch of really cool things in the meantime. Even if it's less intuitive, or the first couple episodes are not as good as our StreamYard. And you guys can be the judge of that as you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook
feedback.
or wherever. We got it done. We moved. We're on Riverside now. Now we can move forward. I could have just as easily said, let me wait until I've played around with Riverside a little bit longer. I want to get some feeling under me. You know what? It doesn't allow the right kind of video layouts that I want, so I'm just going to hold off.
Yeah.
Versus getting it done. And now, we're going to be able to do a little bit more reels, have them a little bit more high quality. It's going to save some time for some of our employees, and we're going to have a good time of it. We didn't find an excuse. It would have been easy. I could have also said, you know what? I just don't have time to do with the new platform right now. I'm just going to stay where I am.
And that
I'm just
stagnation
as
is
of anybody
hard.
else. I know I need to do more multimedia and marketing on our website and create some website download pages. I just haven't gotten around to it. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I do get one done every once in a while.
Yep. Well, and there's some unknowns that are beneficial as well. So I've been on, an internal quest. We've needed some reporting data, and I jumped in there, and I ran into roadblocks, as things happen. And I'm just banging away at this. I finally engaged some other resources, and I'm really, really specific about my goals. There's 2 values that I need out of this reporting element, and I'm very specific about that. And I'm like, everything else we'll figure out as we go along. Yes, there are more things that I want to do. There's a world of opportunities, but I need these two elements. So I identified what was really important, and I moved forward with those. Now, here's the really cool thing. When we got that report finally generated and, we're actually getting what we're looking for, there was a third column in there. And what we've discovered is while we do this, while we gather this information, this other information is really really easy. It almost follows along. And that is something that I didn't know. And maybe, I could think about that possibly in the future, but that became some low-hanging fruit that I didn't even know about. And so that's one of the values of just doing it right now. Yes, you're going to get something done. No, it may not be perfect, but you're going to learn something, and there are a variety of benefits that come with that action. And some of them you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So get out there, do, and then do some more. You'll reevaluate. You'll figure out how that wasn't working great, or hey, that worked fantastic. I realize now we can do even more with just one more step.
Yep.
So that doing is always going to be so much more productive than not doing.
Yeah. And I always give the advice, just like what Skip said, iterate. And you'll find things along the way, and then you'll adjust and be like, oh, I didn't know that. Now, yes, you could read all the documentation and try to hold it all in your head, but it's really inefficient. That's the waterfall model, people. We killed it years ago for a reason in dev. Agile is king. Getting things done is king. Finding excuses to stop and kind of piddle around is how you get stuck in your business. It's how you get stuck with your clients. This is how I do things. Versus pick up the phone, have a QBR with your clients. Don't even call it QBR. Just pick up the phone and say, hey, we really are starting a new initiative here. I would like to sit down with you guys and talk about your business so we can find technologies that are going to help you guys make more money.
Yep.
It's a new initiative we have. I'm going to bring some donuts or coffee or whatever. Let's schedule out an hour. Are you guys okay with that? You don't need the software. You don't need anything fancy. You just need to say those words to your client. What's stopping you? Well, I don't have time. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You have time. You have the
If
same
it's
amount of time as
important, you have
everybody
time.
else. You have time. Now, what if I said, by having that conversation, you'll make $10,000? Will you do it then? I will give you $10,000 if you have this conversation with your client today.
Yeah.
Would you find an excuse then?
Oh, yeah.
That's the question. Now, some of you are like, well, my time is worth more than that. I'm a very successful billionaire. And so, okay, fine. I get that.
Yeah.
Which was, can I have some money? But the idea is you won't call your client because you don't believe in yourself. You don't believe that you can generate $10,000 in this session and help your client develop hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you don't do it. But if you knew there's a $10,000 check waiting for you at your client right now, you would drive there. You would find any excuse to get over there. As it is, you're finding any excuse not to go there and have a conversation with them. You know this conversation will help them. You know it'll generate you revenue, but you don't do it.
Yeah.
Because you don't believe in yourself. So stop finding excuses. Stop finding excuses to avoid success. If you don't put energy into a system, it's just going to fall apart. That's entropy. That's a law of physics, people. You've got to meet with your clients. You've got to put energy into them. That's why on our CES that Skip works with so hard, we don't count tickets. We don't count projects. We count, did you talk to your client?
Yes.
And so when you find excuses to talk to your clients instead, when you find excuses to get work done instead, you will stop stalling. Even though it's not perfect, you're going to be in that room. And that meeting may have been intended to talk about contract review or whatever, but it might have gone in a different direction that was way more productive for everyone.
But
it doesn't happen if you don't try.
Yep. So sometimes you just have to look at it. You do need a little information. I guess I'll give you the grace on that. Gather a little bit, but you don't need a lot. And then at that point, there's nothing left to do but the doing.
Yeah, I mean,
use that one all day today.
I don't meet with my client because I need to get the budgetary stuff done. Okay, let's say you're not using our software. You need to get your budgetary information together. It's going to take 6 hours. You need to get your contract review and review all their licenses. There's another like 4 or 5 hours. you need to go in and do a project review and a white space analysis. There's another 6 hours. So you're up to 18 hours. I don't have time for this.
Mm-hmm.
I have to fix clients. I have to meet with staff. I don't have time for all this. Instead, get a little bit. Like, hey,
Yes.
what's this client do for a living? They're a school. Okay. What's the last 3 projects we did? Oh, we did these things. Okay, now you have enough.
Yeah, that's it.
Go to your client. Took you 5 minutes. Open them up in your PSA and just briefly look what's going on.
Yeah.
And you can do contract review, you can do project review, you can do all that licensing review at another time. The
Yep.
actual conversation you need does not require any tool other than a pencil and a piece of paper. And the reason people don't tell you this is because that doesn't sell tools. That doesn't sell their software. So in the
Right.
channel, they all want you to buy their software and say, you cannot do this unless you have our software. I'm telling you, much to
Yeah.
my detriment, you can have this conversation without us. It's just easier if you have us to do it. You'll have more information at your fingertips. That's fine. But having the project conversation, having the relationship building conversation, that happens at a bar, on a whim, at a networking event.
Yeah.
You do it all the time at conferences.
Yep.
You know you can do it. You just need to do it with your clients. Don't find excuses. I'm going to keep saying this over and over again for people listening. Stop finding
Yep.
excuses to not get things done. Don't let perfection be your enemy.
Yes.
Say,
You're over preparing for those situations, and that preparation sounds great. We take comfort in the prep work that we do, but so many times that prep work doesn't pay off, right? And so you complain about not having enough time. What you don't realize that many times is you're wasting your time because you're over preparing and not getting the things done. Getting something done many times is more valuable than preparing to get things done. So, I mean, there is obviously it's a a balance of elements, but if you get down to the point you're like, I don't know which one I should do, just do one. Move forward with that and get some elements done, because they will make the other parts of your to-do list more manageable. They'll either provide more information, more resources, or just more space on the list to move things around.
Yep.
So there are a lot of values or a lot of benefits to getting those things done. You just have to step out and start.
and I'll give you guys just some tips, some easily actionable tips for people listening to this podcast right now. Create SMART goals. SMART. Google it.
Yep.
Everything you do needs to observe those things. SMART rules will give you a box to work within and stop you from making excuses. That's almost the complete idea around a SMART rule, as there is no excuse not to get this done.
Well, and let me add one bit to that. Those SMART rules are really pretty cool, and we use those in our onboarding, and we'll lay those out and we map those. But lots of times I'll tell people, look, there are 5 elements to those. If you can just get 3 done, run with those. All right. If we can just get a little bit of it done, we'll come back and fill in, the R, the T, or whatever, whenever that time comes around. But let's just start rolling with that.
I like to say that the most important SMART part of the SMART rules is the timely part. When? So you say, I'm going to mow the lawn. There's no time box on that. That's not a SMART
Right.
rule.
That's right.
It's something that's achievable, and that's it.
Yep.
Is it measurable? Yes. If the lawn is shorter than it is now, it's been mowed. Yes, it is done. But the T, when will you do it? Because I like the lawn mowing one, because we're at the end of lawn mowing season. I love mowing my lawn. Because T says you need to have this done today. If you don't do this, then next week, guess what? The grass is going to be 3 times taller.
Yes.
It's going to be harder to mow. You're going to get on that grass, and it's going to start tearing it up. It's going to start laying over. A whole bunch of bad things are going to happen. But you saved time last week, right?
Right.
You didn't need to do it last week. I'll just do it next week. I'll mow the lawn sometime. And it keeps getting longer and longer and longer, and then you want to do it less and less and less.
Yep.
And that's the way it goes with procrastination. That's the way it goes by not getting things done. You keep finding excuses, and eventually the excuses become, oh, the grass is too long. I just need to have a professional come in. Then it comes, I don't have enough money to hire a professional. And then it becomes, I need to reseed the lawn now because the grass all died. And the excuses keep rolling, and they keep piling up, and that anxiety starts overwhelming you and putting you complete analysis paralysis, which is where a lot of you are, and you call it firefighting mode. You put yourself here, people. Stop finding excuses. Start chipping away. Create smart rules. Put timeliness around your goals so that you can start chipping away at that block, and you can start getting what I call the heap to start going down and spread it out over a longer period of time. So that eventually you're getting ahead. You're not in firefighting mode anymore. You're now in this moving forward and this acceleration mode. And it's such a good feeling.
Yep, that's it.
Any final thoughts there, Skip?
No, I think we really had it. I hear these things, and I know these things, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are in the same position as I am. What we're saying is not necessarily anything new. You just sometimes have to listen to it and go, yeah, I know that. I need to do that. And that's it. That mental decision, that fortitude to say, all right, yes, I realize this, and just step out and start doing.
Yep. Get out there and start doing. Find excuses to get things done. Don't find excuses to avoid things.
There you go.
All right, thanks, Skip. It's great having you back on, and we'll get some more recorded here, and we'll get back into our routine.
All right, sounds great.